What's up? Professor Wergles here. We just fixed up Angular routing. It's a good time to go ahead and do a commit. So if I come back over here, I'm going to do a git status. Okay, if I do a git status, you'll actually see there's a lot of components there that are not being tracked. So I'm just going to do a git add all. Let's track everything. And then I'll do a git status. You'll see they're all turned green, and I'm going to do a git commit. I'll do a git commit -a-m. And then we just fixed Angular routing. Okay, we added custom 404s and redirect. Okay, do a git status. You'll see I'm working on master. That's not good. Let's check out to a dev branch and let's work over here. Okay, we'll work over on the dev branch and merge it back over to master over at the end of the lecture. Okay, and we can actually make branches for each component. We can try that this lecture. Have a bunch of different branches for each feature that we're adding, and then merge those into master. Okay, merge those into dev and then merge them into master. So we'll kind of have 3 levels there. Now, notice how every time we built a component, we used Angular CLI. Now, what's nice about that is if I go to the app module, look, it actually added every component in here for me. Okay, it added the imports and it added them into the app module. Remember, this app module is basically your imports page. You're going to add imports here, and in some cases, you'll need them on the module and in each individual component. But here we need to specify all of our pages, and using Angular CLI, it did that for us. Okay, so it actually, we specified the component and it added the component in here for us. Now let's actually build up this application. First things first, we're going to start with the login form, and we're going to use reactive forms. If you don't know that keyword, you should come back over here and look at the reactive forms documentation. Okay, it talks about it a little bit here. Talks about the form group. This is a really short tutorial. And then you should go back over here and read about forms. You can go to introduction. It compares the two, and then it talks about reactive forms. Okay, I like this tutorial over here because it actually has nice diagrams. It shows you how the data flows between a reactive form and just a regular template-driven form, which is what we created before. So I'm going to come over here to the login.html. I'm actually just going to go back to Canvas and copy some code. Okay, so if I go back to lecture number 10, copy this form right here. Now this is just HTML and CSS, and it's actually using a lot of Bootstrap classes. Okay, so I'm going to copy this form here, and I'll go ahead and paste it right here into the login template. This says login component.html. In Angular, we call this our template. Okay, I have a form. I'm using the class form sign-in, and here you'll see I have an H1. These are actually going to be Bootstrap classes. Okay, you'll see I have an email, I have a password, and you'll see both of them are required. I'm going to do an autofocus on the email address, so that's going to be where the cursor goes first. And I have a checkbox if you want to remember me. A lot of login forms will have that. And then down at the button, I have a submit button, sign in. And then I have a copyright 2020. Okay, you can put your company name there, or you can put your name there saying that you built it. Okay, but this is what our form is going to look like. Now, these are a lot of Bootstrap classes, so you'll want to look at Bootstrap 4 and go over all of these classes so you know what's happening. Okay, so if I do an MB-3, come over here to the web, okay, we can search what's happening there. Just do a Bootstrap MB-3. Okay, you'll see that spacing. Okay, you'll see that spacing. So if I come down, you'll see M is margin, B is margin bottom. Okay, so if I do an MB, I'm going to put a little bit of spacing on the margin bottom. Okay, you'll see 3. Okay, so here I have MT, margin top, margin bottom. Okay, this is an H3 with a font weight normal. Okay, this is Bootstrap 4. So this is our form. And now I'm not going to add Bootstrap in like we did before. Earlier, we just kind of put a link here. Most Angular applications will not touch this file here. if you're going to add something, you're usually do it with NPM or you're going to do it with Angular CLI. You're not going to manually change the index.html file here. That was just uh, uh, an example, so I can show you what a single page application does. And I just wanted to show you how simple Angular was. We don't need to make it so complicated. But if I'm building a real Angular application and I want to use Bootstrap, okay, I actually go to the web and I just search Angular 10, add Bootstrap. Okay, and there's usually going to be some npm package, or there's going to be some Angular CLI package. Okay, so you'll see it talks about it here. I can do an npm install Bootstrap and jQuery. And what we're going to use actually now with Angular 10, which is what we're using, we can actually use Angular CLI. So by using Angular CLI, I'm going to do an ng, that's Angular CLI, add, and I'm going to add at ng-bootstrap / actually, let me come back here and let me check the command real quick just to make sure we got it right. So you'll see here's the npm package that I'm using, ng bootstrap. It's Angular powered Bootstrap widgets, but it actually has a lot more. Okay, and it actually says to do ng add at bootstrap / ng bootstrap. Okay, so actually that's the command I'm going to use. And then let Angular do its thing. You'll see Angular's not going to lie. It says installing packages via npm. Angular's built on top of npm, so it tells you that it's using npm. But what's nice about this is it will actually add it to your package JSON file, which npm would do as well. But then it'll add any imports that you need as well. So npm would put it in your package JSON, but Angular CLI will also add some of the imports for you. So you'll see this is being added by npm. You'll see we're using ng's Bootstrap 7.0. I go back to the documentation. If I use 7.0, I'm using Angular's CLI 10 and Bootstrap 4.5. So that's the most updated version. And if I come back to my app module, okay, it's not there yet, but once it finishes, it will actually add the import in here for me as well. Okay, after giving it some time after it finished, you'll see it added the import here for me, and it actually added it right here as well. Okay, now that's nice. npm would put it in package JSON, and then I have to add the import manually. Angular CLI will actually add the import for me. Now, as soon as I run the Angular CLI command, it's actually ready to go. Okay, so if I come back over here, you'll see I actually need to recompile. In some cases, you'll actually have to do a Control-C here, stop ngserve, and start it again. When I used Angular CLI, you'll see it actually compiled successfully. Okay, so it tried to compile. I got some errors. Then it added the import in there for me, and then it compiled successfully. But I still will come over here and stop the serve and then start it up again just to make sure it's working correctly. And if it is, when I come over here to the login page, you'll see here's the one without format. Once it starts back up using Bootstrap this time, then you'll see the one with the nicely formatted login. And you'll notice I'm just using Bootstrap classes right here in the template. Okay, I didn't add any imports. I don't actually have any CSS. If I use Material or if I use Bootstrap, that's the CSS library. Remember, Bootstrap's a CSS library. So I may not have to write any CSS, and I can still get my page to look nice. Let's check this out. Do a refresh. Look how nice this login is. And what's nice about it is it's responsive. So I can make this work on a mobile device as well. Okay, on some of the others, you'll actually want to put this in a container. That's what Bootstrap recommends. So I'm going to put this in a div, and I'm going to say class container here. Okay, and I'm going to put the form inside the Bootstrap container. Okay, if I save it and come back out, You'll see what that does is actually add a little bit of space so everything's not right up next to the wall. And if I make it larger, you'll see it doesn't span across the entire page like it used to. It centers it, and then it adds margin over here on the left and the right. Okay, now I should do that on my nav bar too. You'll see now as it gets smaller, it actually has some media queries there. See how it jumps a little bit on the different sizes of the display? Those are the Bootstrap media queries. The Bootstrap media queries only work if you put them in a container. Now you'll know this if you go back over the Bootstrap lecture, lecture number 9. Okay, talk about containers and how that works. But just look at this. I'm so amazed that I didn't write any CSS. All I did was ng add Bootstrap, and look how nice my page is. Now the navbar doesn't look the best, but it does look better. Okay, it does look better than what it did before. So for this class, try to use libraries. Use Material, use Bootstrap, use Angular. We're going to be using libraries throughout the rest of the semester. Do not build it from scratch. I have students, I tell this them all semester long, and then for the final project, they build things from scratch. And then they only get a little bit done. No, use libraries, use frameworks. We want to use tools that are built already so we don't recreate the wheel. That's a phrase that we say in computer science or programming. Don't recreate the wheel. Use the wheel and let's build on top of it. Okay, now this login's not going to do anything. So I type in test, nothing. It's just a front end. It's just a template. We actually need to add some functionality. So we're going to do that in the next video. Before we move to the next video, let's do a commit. So I'm going to do a get status. Okay, we changed quite a bit. I'm going to do a get commit -a -m. They're already tracked, so I don't need to add them. I just need to add them to the stage with that -a. And then we added the login form with Bootstrap. Okay, do a commit, do a get status. I'm on master for some reason. I thought I was on dev. Okay, that's okay. We will switch over to dev, and we'll actually make a new branch this time. We'll make a branch for our login functionality. Okay, but we're going to do that in the next video. So stick with Professor Wergeles, and we'll see you in the next video.